Testing.
I'm not sure which one was effective.
Yeah, for the members, it was like best meeting ever. Just need to go home. I have the rest of my day.
Exactly. The morning, at least.
It's 1:30 and time to call to order the meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Commission. We'll start off with roll call. Commissioner Varnell,
Here.
Commissioner Littlefield,
Here.
Commissioner Russell,
Here.
Commissioner Schuelein, Commissioner Miller, Commissioner George, Commissioner Cornett. Okay, thank you. Our first item is the approval of the minutes from the July 19th meeting, 2021. Do we have a motion regarding the minutes?
Varnell, move for approval.
We have a motion by Commissioner, was that Russell or Varnell? Commissioner Varnell, and a second by Commissioner Cornett. Any discussion? Have your votes, please.
We'll correct that.
Okay. Motion is passed. The report on licensed taxi and record services. There's not a report this month. Move on to item 4, the consent docket. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the consent docket or opposed to it? Is there a motion regarding the consent docket?
I'll move.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Cornett, a second by Commissioner Varnell. Is there any discussion about the consent docket? Could we vote, please? Okay, the motion has been passed, so the consent docket has been approved. Go on to item 5. We'll take 5A, Donna Luan. In Ward 4, the request for number 1, no parking Monday through Thursday on the east side of Southwest 69th Street from South Harvey Avenue to its dead end south of Southwest 69th Terrace. Item 2, no parking 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Friday through Sunday on the east side of Southwest 69th Street from South Harvey Avenue to its dead end south of Southwest 69th Terrace. Number 3, no parking anytime on the west side of Southwest 69th Street from South Harvey Avenue to its dead end south of Southwest 69th Terrace. Is there anyone here to speak on item 5A? If you would come forward, give us your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes to speak.
Okay. My name is Donna Lujan, and my address is 128 Southwest 69th Court, Oklahoma City, 73139. The reason for the petition is we live on a small 2-street cul-de-sac, me and my neighbors, and since they have built the park and they have all this park and walking track and everything, we have had a lot of traffic in our cul-de-sac, which has made it hard for us that live there in the neighborhood to even come and go in our neighborhood. We have people that sit there in their cars with their stereos up full blast. And we have people cleaning out their cars and emptying their trash in the street. I've even had a coach of one of the soccer teams put out his own speakers out of his SUV and play the music as loud as possible. When I asked him to please turn it down, he got very rude and wouldn't do it, and I did call the police And they talked to him, and he left, and the team left. We're just wanting our neighborhood to be a nice neighborhood, a clean neighborhood, a neighborhood we can get in and out of our streets, get home. Most of the people work during the day. We did have an ambulance that tried to get through to one of the houses one day, and they weren't able to get through because of the width of the ambulance. They couldn't get through with people parked on both sides of the streets. We just want our neighborhood back, and if there's limited time that people can park, maybe we can keep it cleaner and keep it more quiet. We just like to keep our neighborhood clean.
Okay. Anything else?
I think that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion regarding item 5A? Okay, we're going to do this verbally. Just the motion. Is there a motion regarding item 5A? Verbal.
To open discussion, I move approval.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Littlefield. Is there a second? If we have a second, we can open it up for discussion.
I'll second it.
Okay, a second by Commissioner Russell. And let's open it up for some discussion.
Is there access, like the pictures that we have, I can't see the other side of that park. Is there parking for the other side of that park, on the other side of the park? Is there a parking lot? Go ahead and come on up to the mic.
Come back up, please.
We're going to have several questions, so you can just stay
Yeah.
up here.
I believe there's 3 parking lots. There's one at the gymnasium on the other side of the field from where my street is. There's a gymnasium with a parking lot. And there's a school, middle school, which all this is, I think, is being built for. They have a parking lot, and then we have the health department that has a big parking lot.
Okay, so there's adequate parking for the park if
There
you were to
is,
make that street no parking.
there is parking, yes, a lot of parking.
And I've noticed you spend a lot of time going to talk to your neighbors here, and it looks like everybody that would sign agreed with you. I did notice at the very bottom, though, the Park and Recs Department disagreed with this petition. I didn't even, how did you come to the Parks and Recs Department even with this petition, or did they add that themselves?
Well, actually, when I sent the petition in the first time, it was mailed back to me with them on the list, and I couldn't understand why they were on the list when they have a office building that also has a parking lot right across the street from the gymnasium and the health department, and they'd have a big parking lot also. So I don't know why they were added to the list of people to talk to, but I did go over and talk to them. Several people I was told to speak to, and at that time, I just completed everything that I was requested to complete on this petition with my neighbors that I didn't get a hold of the first time, and then I sent it back in.
Thank
And
you.
most people, you've noticed, I got a pretty good percentage of neighbors. It's 2 small streets. And it's a dead end, but there's a lot of traffic, a lot of congestion.
Any other questions or discussion? My biggest concern would be the safety for emergency responders to have the ability to go down the street to respond to an emergency.
And they can't get through with all those cars in there.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
It may be in the staff report, but I didn't see it. What type of park is this classified as? Is it a neighborhood park or is there a classification for parks?
I'm not sure if there's a classification for parks.
It's a ballpark. One end of it is for baseball. And then on the far side from my house is soccer and football goals. And most of it, is closest to the buildings that are there. But a lot of the traffic comes to our dead-end streets to park.
Just out of curiosity, is there a reason for inquiring as to the type of park facility?
Not really. I'm aware that some park facilities have parking at the parks. That's what, because this is incomplete, I wish we could see more of this image off to the up and left, where we could get a better idea of what the facilities are over there for parking.
Is there a representative from the Parks Department here today to speak on it?
Okay, if you would give us your name, address.
My name is Mike Smith. I'm the business manager for the Parks Department. So essentially, we do have, on the other side, we have essentially a recreation center. This is set up as a neighborhood park, is what it's set up. There is an independent building, which is the Oklahoma City County Health Building that's there, that has a parking lot for their building, which is just on the other side of this walking tract. And then Oklahoma City Public Schools has a middle school, and at that middle school, they have parking. Obviously, you know, you would think that the parking for the school is primarily for the school and teachers, stuff like that. City County Health is their own independent building. That's for their customers. So they'll have business hours that they have their own people there. The parking lot there at the Recreation Center is not tremendously big, but as was discussed, these fields were built primarily for the middle school. This used to be an elementary school, but the reclassification has now made it a middle school. So this was built with Fields and Futures as an independent builder, built this primarily for the middle school so they can have athletic fields for their schools, what they have there. So that's what this was built for primarily. There are no lights on these fields. They're just fields that are out there type thing. And I understand why I'm here, total disclosure. I understand the concern of public safety vehicles getting down the streets and stuff like that. I can understand that as a piece. Yes, we would hope that people would park closer, but it's a fairly long walk if you're disabled or something and had to walk to these fields. So that would be the only other thing I would mention in general. But there are 3 other parking lots on the other side of this park.
Any other comments?
Particular park
So this
in that area.
Right. So this field was developed really more with Oklahoma City Public Schools and a private group that is building fields for the public schools. This was not a parks project to develop these fields. And so that was how it was developed. Again, there are 3 parking lots there. So in general, the games will probably be happening during school hours is when most of the games will happen. But as we know, as our city gets more and more populated, there's a challenge to have practice field facilities. So we would have other people that would want to rent these and try to do that. But there's 3 parking lots that are there. Again, that's a primary parking. My only concern will be the occasional person with disabilities trying to walk from those others. This should not ever be the primary parking spot, but I would have to defer to police for enforcement, things like that, because the Parks Department has no enforcement abilities of parking, stuff of those nature, just in general.
what's the possibility of adding some parking in this area on the park side?
So what you're seeing is actually the full limit of the park. The park is developed out completely. We don't own any other land down there that's undeveloped now in that park. That's it.
If I could,
Yes,
I would
sir.
like to know your opinion regarding this request.
Yes, sir. I would say I never want to disagree with a citizen, especially when they have concern for emergency vehicles getting there.
Okay?
I am absolutely in support of that. Emergency vehicles need to be able to get down there. I also understand when you said concern with loud music, things like that. I can see that going into the cul-de-sacs, you can't have any traffic in there. You know, you can't get into your houses now. I can easily see on the east side of the street there on 69th Street, that makes sense too, because again, that's right up against their houses. I don't know the best answer for the west side. The west side is frontage for the park property. Maybe in the extreme, if you have persons with disabilities that need something closer parking-wise or something, maybe you allow that on a limited ability. But that's, again, your decision. What do you think is the best thing for the citizens? Because this is a neighborhood park to be enjoyed by the citizens. Obviously, with fields, you're going to have other people that are looking for fields, so it won't necessarily just be people that live in the neighborhood that want to use those fields. So I definitely defer to your opinion, and also somebody that lives there. I'd want to know if I need an ambulance can get to me as well, of course, obviously.
Okay, thank you.
Ma'am, I have a question for you on if you, sorry, ma'am, you're good. If there were no parking on your side of the street up against the houses, but there was parking allowed on that frontage road, like on that west side of the park, or the west side of the street, would that help anything, or is that still?
Well, it still brings the noise of the people sitting in their cars playing their stereos while their children are out there playing games. And they clean their cars out while they're sitting there, putting all the trash in the street. And this is not the main entrance of the park by a long ways. The main entrance is all the way back around over by the gymnasium, and they have a gate there. And that is the main entrance, and that's where the bleachers are and everything. This is just a side where everybody seems to go. It's the dead end, it's the cul-de-sac, and we have all this congestion of traffic, and they want to use the streets as turning around, and we're just concerned about the neighborhood, as you can see.
Yeah,
By
I
the
understand.
petition,
Yeah.
almost every neighbor.
Yeah, I understand. I just wanted to see if that would help alleviate if we did cut off
Maybe a
parking on one
limited,
side,
maybe a
but not-
limited time parking, and as far as the handicap part, which I understand what you're saying, but actually the parking lots would be closer to the bleachers for handicap access, and they have sidewalks there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there-
Thank you.
Is there currently any handicap access anywhere to the park?
So there is a couple of handicap spaces in front of the city county health department, which is the closest building to these fields. On the school, I'm not sure. I'm not involved with that school property over there, what they have. Our recreation center is the furthest building away, and that has a couple of spots there as well. But that's all the way across, which would be Hudson on the other side and Southwest 66 over there. Because essentially, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that area, but it's a half-moon road that goes by Southern Oaks Library down there and then comes out next to the elementary school up there. So our recreation center is the farthest away.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion, or anyone have any other questions? Yes.
What this gentleman over here brought up earlier makes sense because there's this great big field right at this side of, you see that pole with those cables? There's this humongous field out there that could be a parking lot for the park or the schools if it was developed and have the access from Walker Street.
And just so you know, that is not owned by the Parks Department. That is a private owner that owns
Yeah, I don't
the
know
other
who
area,
owns I don't
is
know
what
who
it is.
owns
The Parks Department does not own it. If you go back to the bigger picture that shows the street there in the map, so really our property ends right there on the west side of 69th Street and just goes around where the walking trail is. That's the end of the Parks Department property.
Okay. Any other discussion? We currently have a motion to approve by Commissioner Littlefield, a second by Commissioner Russell. Could we have your votes, please? Okay, motion has passed. Okay. Moving on to item 5B. Graham Colton, Spark Restaurant, remove a metered parking space on the south side of West Oklahoma City Boulevard from approximately 15 feet east to 55 feet east of the east curb line of South Harvey Avenue in favor of a full-time commercial loading zone. Is there anyone here to speak on this item?
As Graham walks up, I'm going to abstain from my vote on this one, so I'm going to step out. Thank you.
Thank you. Need your name, address, and you have up to 5 minutes to speak.
Yes, sir. My name is Graham Colton. I live at 6217 Claridge Court, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73118. I am an operating partner of the new Spark Restaurant, anticipated to open hopefully in late September. We are partners with Scissortail Park Foundation and are really excited about the opportunity to put a very energetic restaurant there, which will be hamburgers and milkshakes. And we're very excited. We do anticipate a lot of traffic, and with that comes a lot of need for deliveries. And we have been active to consult with traffic department and different members to find the most optimal spot for deliveries, short-term deliveries. And we think it will work best for logistics, and we're very excited to be in the park.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there
Graham, come back up here for a second. Okay.
Okay, is there a motion regarding item 5B?
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve by Commissioner Schuelein. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by
Varnell.
Commissioner Varnell. And the floor is open for discussion. Are there any questions?
I had a question. Where would trucks park right now to deliver goods to your restaurant?
They don't. They currently put their flashers on. Again, we are not open for business quite yet, so it's been a little bit of a moving target to see where trucks park, but there really aren't deliveries happening that are restaurant-related, if that makes sense. There are other things, park activities and whatnot, that are going near the concert stage, but there really aren't deliveries being made quite yet to that location. So we're just trying to stay out in front of what can be expected.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Schuelein to approve, a second by Commissioner Varnell. If you would, cast your vote. And the motion is passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to item 5C. You invite Commissioner Cornett back in. A request from Erica Jones to convert Northwestern Avenue between Northwest 16th Street and Northwest 18th Street from a one-way northbound street to a two-way street. Is anyone here to speak on item 5C? Your name, address, and you have up to 5 minutes to speak.
Okay, I'm Erica Jones, address 4555 West Memorial Road. And we are working on this project in partnership with the City of Oklahoma City. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Okay. Is there a motion regarding item 5C?
Motion to approve?
Motion by Commissioner Schuelein to approve. Is there a second? Second. Second by Commissioner Littlefield. Is there any discussion on the item 5C?
Mr. Chairman, I have a
Yes.
question. Looking at this, this wasn't the original back OKC plan. This has been added as an addendum or a changing plan to a plan. Who brought that up, and who's behind that? Why did that? Why is that just now being addressed? Because Western wasn't part of the original plan to do this with the bike lanes, and someone has done some, looks like some road diet here, and I want to know why they would block Western off now for any kind of vehicular traffic when it wasn't even in the original plan. So who's behind that?
I'm not 100% sure that the project came out of Public Works, so that would be Eric Winger and his staff, I would assume.
Does staff know where that came from?
We've got the project manager for this job is in attendance at the meeting, and she might be able to share some insight on it.
Yes, your name, address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
My name is Shamika Smith.
Could you step up to the microphone?
My name is Shamika Smith. I'm the project manager for this project. I guess I'll give you 420 West Main. Okay, so this particular project, we are trying to connect bike routes. So we have bike lanes that are going southbound on Western and between 18th and 23rd, and we're trying to tie into those so we can have a direct bike route. I wasn't prepared to speak. I didn't think I was going to get any questions. I apologize.
You're fine.
There's also proposed bike lanes that are going to be going on along Classen, and that's in a separate project. CEC is not doing that, but we have been in coordination with that consultant. So there is going to be bike lanes that they will connect to on Classen, and then the bike lanes that they will connect to the north of 18th that are already existing.
Okay, so these, the plans has been set forth, and, you know, we're starting to get some feedback now from the driving public about bike lanes, as we all know. You know, if you look at some of the other cities, they're starting to balk on some of this aggressive bike plans unless they're really needed. And I'm just curious as to why in the original plan, someone had figured this out, that they didn't want to mess with Western right there for a reason, and all of a sudden now it's part of a big bike plan. And I just hate for us to have to do something and then undo it later, which is what's happening in other cities. I don't know, for those of you that don't know, Chapter 9 in the MUTCD, the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Device, that's all about bike lanes. The city of Phoenix, Arizona was a big player in getting that put in the manual. But if you look at Phoenix now, and they've been doing this for 20, 25 years, but they just came up with a Transportation 2050 plan, and their first project got shot down. So the public is starting to look at these things, and you're affecting some road users, and I'm just asking if this was just a hip pocket decision to do that, and it wasn't part of the original plan that was well thought out of, then I have some reservations about this sort of activity.
Red, I just kind of wanted to speak to, if you take the bicycles completely out of it, right now what happens is there is a slip lane that goes right up next to Homeland, and it's only one way for 2 blocks, and then it turns into a 2-way street. So if you completely remove bikes from the equation, it doesn't make sense for cars either, because when you come out of Homeland on the east side, you can't turn right to get back to 16th Street or to Classen. You have to go all the way up to 18th Street, then turn left to get to Classen, and then go around. So even if you don't, if this isn't for bikes for you to make it a safer street for bikes, it doesn't make any sense as a vehicular traffic measure either.
But that doesn't mean it can't be reconfigured later for some other construction project to change the whole situation there.
But we have the opportunity to do it now to help, and I think maybe it has been recommended that complete slip lane goes away entirely. But I think right now, if we have the opportunity to change it from a 1-way to a 2-way, and it's on the heels of connecting bike lanes, that's okay. Like this is just the avenue to get us to making the street better for all and not just for bikes.
Well, what I'm reading in the proposal was that the reason you're doing it is because the city code requires it to be a 2-lane, for the bike lane to be on it, so it'll be on either side. That's the whole reason for this being here. So it made it simple to just do away with the traffic lanes, and then we can do whatever we want to with it. But I guess I'm just curious. I haven't heard the other side. I haven't heard anything from anybody that is there a reason not to do this from anybody?
Commissioner Schuelein, did you have?
You know, I think this actually was a part of the Heritage Hills plan at one time, this one section, and it was just removed. We didn't get to it. It's always been confusing. I've spoken to the people, the C's Design, who have the studio right there on 18th, and they see every day lots of people going the wrong way on that 1-way street. It's very confusing, and they have no problem with it being converted. I think, as I understand, I thought the write-up was a little confusing because we're still going to have 2 lanes of traffic there. It's not like there's no parking on it now. We're not losing any parking. It's just going to be space for the bike lanes, really. But I think that it's making something that's very confusing.
You're doing away with northbound traffic.
No.
It's 1 way? Is it
No,
not?
it's 1 way now.
Yeah, it's currently 1-way vehicular.
It is 1
traffic.
way now, right?
And it'll be 2-way.
It'll be
It'll be 2-way.
Okay.
Commissioner Littlefield, did you have something?
To echo Commissioner Schuelein, sometimes history doesn't become history. There's so much conversation. People change, positions change in city staff, people move in and out of neighborhoods. But Tim Johnson, way back when, I want to be fair, 30 years ago, had that massive traffic, cut-through traffic program and speeding program with all the stop signs, and there were cachanes that were built along Broadway Avenue that allowed for neighbors to only be able to exit the neighborhood onto Broadway. It restricted cut-through traffic from coming off of Broadway through Heritage Hills. This one little piece was always in that plan to turn that back to 2-way. And I think that the purpose for that, one of the purposes for that, is to help alleviate traffic to be able to move around the perimeter boundary of the neighborhood because of all the the stop signs and the cachains and everything that were implemented in the neighborhood. They wanted to make it possible for people to travel efficiently around the perimeter. And this one little stretch is just nuts that it ever went one way. It, in my opinion, to follow that original plan, and as Commissioner Cornett is saying, just take the bikes out of the complete equation, it just makes sense to do it.
Commissioner Russell, did you have something?
Well, I'm confused. The staff recommendation says Northwestern Avenue will not be striped or operated as a roadway for two-way motor vehicle traffic. So there will not be two-way traffic on the street. It'll still be one way, but procedurally, we're changing it in code so the bike lane can be present. Am I correct in thinking that?
That is absolutely correct.
Okay, okay. Oh, wow. That's what I'm saying. I was like, there's not going to be two-way traffic. It's going to be one way.
So then the bike lanes are not out of the equation.
Okay. The reason why this item had to be presented is because there's a section in our code, 32478. And 32478 requires a person on a bicycle to travel only in the same direction in which vehicular traffic is permitted. And right now, Western Avenue is signed as a one-way northbound street. The addition of a southbound bicycle lane is what's driving the presentation of this item today, because in accordance with 32478, Western Avenue has to be made converted to a two-way street. The only difference being is in this particular application, we will still only have northbound motor vehicle traffic, but since it becomes a two-way street, we'll at least be able to facilitate the southbound bicycles. And it's because of this code requirement that it's being presented. Now, if the bicycles were on like a separate path or something like that, off the roadway, this item wouldn't be coming up before the commission.
Okay, that brings up an interesting point, because someone had mentioned just a minute ago the confusion on Western, that currently you have a lot of people going south. They're confused because it is just one way. But if it remains one way, and now we have bicyclists going south, it seems like it would add to that confusion. That it would make sense to a motorist that if you see a bicyclist going southbound, that's going to compound the problem of the confusion. It seems like.
Well, I think Ms. Jones might be able to give you some details as to how the project is going to be signed in order to make it clear to motorists that it's still just, they only have northbound lane available, whereas cyclists will be able to travel both north and south on the road. So.
Yes, that is correct. We are adding additional signage that will alert the motorists that it is only one way for the bicycle traffic. It will say, do not enter except bicyclists. So there will be an extra plaque added onto the do not enter sign that you can see in that bottom photo right there. And then also, as you can see kind of on the top photo, the southbound bicycle traffic will have yellow gore striping versus the normal the normal white. It's a 3-foot buffer, and there will be delineators as well, so that will stick up out of the ground denoting that that bicycle lane is by itself, and those are every 15 feet. And that's the added, and of course, obviously you have the green paint as well, showing that the bicycle lane is in that area.
I have a question.
Oh, Commissioner Littlefield.
Thank you for clarity. I was under the impression there would be two-way traffic plus a bicycle lane. What kind of interaction has there been with the neighborhood with this type of application here? Has there been any engagement with the neighborhood, which would be Mesta Park? What are their thoughts on this? What are the business owners' thoughts on this? Maybe we should study this a little bit more.
It's currently two-lane northbound, correct?
Yes,
Okay, so it's going to go down to one lane?
yes.
So how would that impact
Well,
the current traffic flow? Has that been considered?
So as far as traffic volumes, this is not a highly traveled street. Also, as Ms. Cornett mention, that slip lane that comes off of Classen would now be, we are gonna be reconstructing that to only be 6-foot wide slip lane for bicycles only. So that slip lane would be going away as well, which will also help with traffic, kind of minimize some of the confusion that's already happening right there. So we're not anticipating there to be a huge impact to traffic because there's not really a lot of volume traffic-wise going down this segment of Western currently.
It's, according to the city's report, we've got about a little over 5,000 vehicles per day on this stretch of road.
Right.
Okay, so,
That's a lot.
yeah, to go from 2 lanes down to 1 lane, you're going to ask quite a bit, I think, of the motorist to make that change.
You may have less that decide to go that way with the slip lane being gone as well.
Okay, my other concern is you brought out that currently there is a do not enter sign that's not being observed, evidently, that there's some confusion. And I don't see how putting another little sign under it that says bicycle can go south is going to change that. I think that we're still going to have quite a bit of confusion if it's already marked do not enter.
We could add some like flashing beacons or something to that, but that was something we probably have to bring before the council. The commission, sorry.
Commissioner Schuelein?
And I understand the signal light's going to have to be modified at 16th and Classen as well to allow bicyclists to get into the merge in the traffic.
That is true. Yes. There will be modifications to the traffic signal at 16th as well in order to provide timing for the bicyclists to get through.
Will that change be coming before us?
That would be a signal modification. So that's not anything that'll require commission attention.
In fact, I'm a major supporter of bike lanes and pedestrian accessibility. I think that this city is has made some really great steps in the process of providing bike lanes. But in this particular case, I think it's really important that we get some feedback from the neighborhood, given the history of what they were trying to accomplish there, accommodating north-south vehicular traffic on that stretch of Western Avenue. I can't see where it would be impossible to have all 3 elements. If the neighborhood really wanted to follow through with accomplishing 2-way traffic there. I'm not convinced that they're aware of this proposal. And I'd like to, before I would make a decision, I would like to get feedback from the neighborhood on this.
Okay. It looks like we have a second to that opinion. Let's address the motion that's before us, and then we will consider any other motions that need to be addressed. Right now, we have a motion by Commissioner Schuelein. Would you like to modify that motion?
Could we defer this for a month or postpone this decision, this discussion for a month and come back next month and let us?
Well,
Could you step up a little?
the plans are already approved and construction has already started for this project on different, not in this intersection yet, but we have started construction because this is a long project. So we have started construction in certain areas. I have asked the contractor not to touch this area yet until we came to Traffic Commission.
Commissioner?
So do I understand it wouldn't cause any serious delays if we postponed it for 1 month until to consider it again next month?
Well, the contractor is allegedly supposed to have this project wrapped up in 120 days.
We'll say it would throw a hiccup as far as you get your striping guy out there. Now they cannot stripe from 16th to 18th Of course, I don't know which phase in the construction they are, supposed to start, all of that, but, I mean, it will impact as far as you may have to have the contractor demobilize and then remobilize. So there may be additional expense associated with that, if they're not able to work from 16th to 18th.
What happens if this commission says no to this plan? Like does it just stay as is, or it sounds like there's already stuff that's in motion, so what happens if it doesn't pass today?
Well, if it doesn't pass, then I think we would have to go back to the drawing board for this section, in which that would probably cost the city more money because we would have to renegotiate CEC's contract and give them more money to redesign when we already have it approved. But I do have one question. The Homeland. Don't they have like where you only can turn, what is that, left, coming out of the Homeland?
Mm-hmm. On Western?
So, and there's no other entrances on the east side that leads into the neighborhood, correct? Until we get to 18th, correct?
I think it's unfortunate that this particular plan has gotten to the point where it has with not engaging the neighborhood. And I know what I'm talking about when I say that I know that part of that neighborhood's plan was to make this a two-way vehicular street. And I can't, I'd much rather this play out where it's a 30-day continuance and give an opportunity for the neighborhood to look at this plan. Maybe they'll give you full graces. Maybe they'll have a couple of questions. But I think it's fair to do that. And I think that the cost of delaying this a month, as opposed to having the striping going down and the two-way not being considered or implemented, and the neighborhood throws a fit and comes, before their city council persons and everybody else and wants it to get ripped up, is going to cost the taxpayers a lot more money. So I think it's really wise to take this 30-day step and get busy and get with these neighbors and see what their thoughts are on it.
I'd like to express something. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I apologize for feeling so strongly about it, but I do.
No, I would like to echo that. It's from what I'm hearing is this was a done deal, expecting us just to approve it.
The hope
The
was
plans have
that-
already been made, the contract's been set up, everything's good to go, and this was just a formality, just to come
The
without.
hope was, yes, that it would be approved. We really thought that since there was bike lanes on the north side and there's proposed bike lanes on the south side, I mean, this would be the missing connection between those two bike lanes. So if this section does not have bike lanes, it will be a gap as far as a continuous bike lane. So we really thought that, that would be desirable to the commission, that we had one continuous path.
Okay. Commissioner Schuelein, would you like to leave your motion as is? Would you like to modify it?
If I may,
Yes.
what date did the contractor begin? What was their notice to proceed?
Contractor began at the beginning of August.
Okay, so we're just 2 weeks into the 3-month contract?
Right now they're doing ramps, ADA ramps along Western from Linwood up to 10th Street.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner?
I think it makes perfect sense to just defer it for 1 month and to get input from the neighborhood and make sure that people are on the same page. I certainly was confused too, because I really didn't realize this was still going to just be one lane, one way north. I thought it was going to be returned to 2-lane.
Okay, so we are modifying Commissioner Schuelein's motion to, instead of approving, to
defer.
A motion for deferral. for 30 days. Second. A second by Commissioner Littlefield. Any discussion on the new motion? Okay, let's have our votes, please. Okay, the motion to defer till the next meeting has passed. Thank
Get
you.
to work.
We'll see you next month. Okay, next is item 5D. George Marquez is requesting, 1, establish 90-degree angle parking within a setback parking area on the west side of Chantry Road from approximately 54 feet northeast to approximately 98 feet northeast of the center line intersection of Chantry Road and Northwest 109th Terrace, and 2, establish 1 reserved parking space for the physically disabled on the west side of Chantry Road from approximately 54 feet northeast of the center line intersection of Chantry Road and Northwest 109th Terrace. Is there anyone here to speak on item 5D? Yes, sir, your name, address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Yes, George Marquez with Civil and Environmental Consultants, 4045 Northwest 64th Street, Suite 415, Oklahoma City, 73116. It's pretty straightforward. We're providing 3 regular stall size parking spaces and 1 accessible space for this new development. And I'll be happy to answer any questions anybody may have.
Okay, is there a motion regarding item 5D?
Varnell, motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Varnell to approve. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Commissioner Russell. Any discussion?
I had some questions. Just looking at the map, and I can't tell a whole lot. That's just a neighborhood park for these parking spots, correct?
No, that's adjacent to common area, which they're thinking of putting in a clubhouse.
Okay. No plans right now for a pool there? Just
Not at this
that you're
time.
aware of? Okay.
Any other questions, comments?
I have a question to stay. I know we've been working on parking regulations, and I know they're in here. And here again, we're asked to approve one that doesn't meet what we're saying we're going to make as our parking standards. And I can understand that on some situations, but I hate to think that we're setting a precedence for every neighborhood that wants to put in this kind of parking where they're going to back out into opposing lane of traffic. But if staff's okay with it and they understand it's just a neighborhood, then I can be okay with it. But I don't know why we can't get this point across that if we're going to have parking standards, that by God, that's the way they better come to you with it, instead of something like this and asking us to deviate every time.
Okay, I think I'll talk to that a little bit. The standards that we had developed thus far, the intent was for them to basically be universal. But in looking at these, there are going to be times when we will be on roads where there's going to be significant traffic volumes, and then there'll be like minor roads within additions where there's going to be very limited traffic volume. You know, backing out of a space like this would almost be akin to backing out of a driveway in a regular residential area. Now, in an area where someone was backing out onto a roadway that maybe had like a 35-mile-an-hour limit or something like that, or had a considerably higher ADT, I think those are going to be part of a revised version of the parking standards, which we will present at an upcoming meeting. And what we'll be looking at then is not just, because we've gone through the basic mechanics of laying out usable standards for creating angled parking spaces, but we've not focused on the when and the where should something like this be allowed. I mean, should an angled parking space be allowed, even if we've got adequate maneuvering room, should it be allowed on something like the Northwest Expressway where you've got a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit? Well, probably not. And that's one piece that we don't have for you. And in discussions with the Public Works Director, I think the Public Works Department's preference is when we take standards to the City Council for adoption, we'll have not just standards for the spaces, but also standards, recommendations regarding the when and the where they should be considered.
Okay.
So that's next. We've got that working in development right now.
And Stuart, my follow-up would be, does that satisfy any liability that we have when we know what we're doing here is not against, I mean, if there's an accident, someone backs out, happens to hit somebody at one of these locations, what's the ramifications there liability-wise for the city?
In this particular case, I don't think there'd be any more ramification than it would be if you were backing out of your driveway and someone had parked on the opposite side and you had collided with them. It should be the same.
Mr. Marquez, I've seen this neighborhood because I've driven by. I know you're moving dirt right now, but are these single-family dwellings? Are they townhomes?
Duplexes.
Duplexes? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Which will just bring more traffic into the roadway. That's really what I was at.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Varnell, a second by Commissioner Russell. Your votes, please. Okay, item 5D has passed. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay. We go to item 5.6, comments from the citizens. We have no one in attendance, so we will move on to reports and other items from the traffic commissioners. Commissioner Varnell.
None for me, thank you.
Commissioner Littlefield.
I'll be as brief as I can.
Okay.
You all, thank you, Stuart. I know that he emailed you all an article that I read about Tulsa, Oklahoma, and bike lanes and a fail that they had with those. And late last week, I came upon this one about Chicopee, their business bike path. It's a very interesting read. And what I want to make clear about myself, perfectly clear about myself, and my city council person and my ward and the city at large, I am 100% pro-bike. I'm 100% pro-walking. I'm 100% pro-alternative, anything but vehicle. My history here, I've often voted on items where I made the decision that we weren't going to be making accommodations for vehicles all the time anymore. So that's my stance on that. But what's important takeaway from these two articles is it's not that these bike paths failed. It's that the reason why they failed is that there was not proper engagement. And that engagement includes the planning department, that engagement includes the us, that engagement includes the neighborhoods and the businesses that are all impacted and affected, whether positively or negatively, with these things. This was a perfect example today of what you'll read in these two articles, where a bike path was planned, but nobody ever talked to a neighborhood. And I doubt that anybody ever talked to the businesses next to it either. And that's where these articles are valuable information, in my opinion, for us moving forward here. The other comment that I wanted to make that I think would be very, very beneficial as we move forward. Thank you, Stuart, on that item last month with May and 19th Street for including that there existed a two-tier bike path that went through that area. I really appreciated you doing that. That was additional information in the application, and it was very interesting how that discussion went. I think it's important moving forward, if there is an item that comes before this commission, whether it's a specific bike path item like this one today, or it's an element in and of itself in another way, that there happens to be an existing bike path or sharrow or a planned one on that particular item, that somebody from the planning department be present at these meetings to answer our questions and enlighten us as we have today. And I'm going to operate that I think that is something we should require. And if they're not present, it should be continued until they can come and explain it. And the relationship that application may have with that bike path or bike plan, so that we can all talk about it. Those are my 2 comments. Very interesting reads here. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Littlefield. Commissioner Russell?
I'm good.
Commissioner Schuelein? Commissioner Miller?
Nothing, sir.
Okay, thank you. I would like to kind of run with Commissioner Littlefield's thoughts. I think that if we are going to make decisions, that we need to have full disclosure and full information. Today is a prime example that, come to find out that it is, even though we say it's a 2-way street, it's still going to be marked a 1-way street. Full disclosure should have let us know that, hey, we've got bicycle lanes to the north, planned for the south. If you don't do this, then it's going to interrupt that. That information would have been handy to have had whenever this item was presented, not to be revealed through questioning. I feel like that if moving forward that we need, like Commissioner Littlefield said, that we need more disclosure as to exactly what is going on and what we're voting on, instead of finding out through interrogation. That's just my thoughts on it, and moving forward, I hope to see that happen.
Well, it was great having somebody from the Parks Department here present, because from the picture, and he brought a lot of clarity to what was actually going on. There was other parking available. It was great. Anyway.
So, okay, any other items, any other discussion? Oh, I'm sorry, forgive me, Commissioner Cornett, I did not mean to overlook you.
This is going to be anticlimactic, but I don't have anything to
Any comment? No. Okay. Anything from the city?
Okay, just to let you, to speak to what Commissioner Littlefield had mentioned, in the past few months, we've included in our basic traffic data for all applications, there's a bike walk OKC designation section. So we'll always include that, and in applications where you've got where there's a bike route or anything, or any facility like that planned, we've been taking excerpts from Bike Walk OKC and including that within the text. So it allows you to put requests like this in context. So, I mean, we tried to provide as much as we can, but there'll always be questions that we didn't anticipate.
That brings me to one of it was mentioned today that we needed to get some input from the neighborhood. How will that input be obtained? Well, I don't want to be in the same position next meeting. I mean, there's need to be some plan on how to obtain this information.
Seemed like it was put on the applicant to do so, wasn't it? When we presented it for, if they wanted their item approved, that to get that, it was kind of a request to them to get information from the neighborhood.
I think we need to follow up with them, make sure that they understand that the burden of proof will be on them.
I was under the impression that it had been established that there was a 300-foot notification process with applications like this.
On an application like this, no, there's not. But,
There should be then.
This was like an accident that we even saw this, wasn't it? That's what I'm getting then.
What I will do is I will visit with the city's project manager, and I will see what information I can get from them. But I am going to impress upon them that the commission is wanting to see that there's some level of either concurrence or at least, or for certain, public notification to the people that will, and the businesses that will be affected by some of these proposals.
Well, you have to for a stop sign. Shouldn't we have to for changing a road to, one way for cars and one way for bicycles? I mean, in my opinion, that there should absolutely be a 300-foot notification policy for these kinds of changes on our roadways regarding bike lanes, bike paths.
The commission does have a standard operating policy and procedure. It was created, I think around 2009. It was further revised in 2012, but it has not been revised since then. So if the commission's got interest in going through their operating policies and procedures, if you've got any suggestions or any alterations or changes that you'd like to have considered, we can certainly make revisions to the document and bring back a revised version to see if, because there have been a lot of changes. I mean, a lot of the changes associated with on-street bicycle facilities, they really weren't really much of a topic of conversation when that policy was developed, and perhaps it probably bears looking at.
Yeah, it sounds like it needs to be revisited. So-
What's the procedure for motivating that? Is there a formal process?
You're asking me to review it, and I can get back to I can get it back to you. If you do have any suggestions individually, if you would like to email Stuart individually, and he can pass those back to me, I can include those in a revision draft, and I can bring discussion points to the next meeting. And then if it looks like everybody has any other additional points by the next meeting, those can be included, or we can move forward with approving the new policy.
Is it possible to send out a reminder email between now and before next?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Okay, any other items for discussion? Anything from legal?
No.
Oklahoma City Police?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then we are formally dismissed. Thank you.